What I'm looking for in a bank is one that's looking out for me, like NBT. I want a relationship and a team that supports me in my dreams. And when life gets challenging, I need a bank that's focused on what matters. Not to mention one that's been top-rated by Forbes in trust, customer service, financial advice, and more. That's why when it comes to meeting my banking needs, it's always NBT. Learn more at nbtbank.com. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in. This is Tom Hickey from 2020 Media, and you are listening to NBT Bank's On the Scene podcast, reaching over 250,000, that's 250,000 readers of the Jewish Ledger, West Hartford Magazine, and weha.com, live 24/7, 365. And I'd like to all of us to say hello and welcome my co-host, Bob Carr, and he'll give a little intro to our guests. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Tom Hickey, along with myself, Kosik McCartney, and Rodney Newton is the founder and partner in weha.com. Tom brings to West Hartford the Connecticut Jewish Ledger, or West Hartford Magazine, which is West Hartford's original lifestyle magazine, along with the Taste of West Hartford, which is coming up. We have one coming up April 27th, and the Best of West Hartford, which will be later this year, probably later this summer. Post-production and distribution of our podcast is managed by Exvadia Media, a division of the Modern Observer Group of Middletown, Connecticut. And today our guests are Andreas Kapetanopoulos, Regional President of NBT Bank in Connecticut and Massachusetts, and Nicole Pollard, VP of Fraud Risk Management at NBT Bank. So, Andreas, how are you doing today?
Excellent, Bob. Tom, great to be back.
I love having you on. You're one of our top guests, sitting here also a sponsor.
Well, thank you. One way to get friends.
And so one of the things we want to talk about this afternoon, and it could be tomorrow morning, who knows what this afternoon, is what's going on with NBT Bank, where new branches, growth, etc. And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, since I think the last time we met, we've a lot going on. We actually surpassed our 2-year anniversary here in the West Hartford Center with the branch. The branch is doing fantastic. We just had a business after hours with over 50 people at the branch a couple of weeks ago, so that went very well. Also, we're looking forward to opening our 8th branch in Connecticut in Torrington later this year. So we're very excited about that, and still, we love being in Connecticut, want to do more business in Connecticut. Hopefully we'll be expanding, hopefully next year, maybe a little bit further south. We're exploring a few towns in that area, but business has been good. Our team keeps growing in Connecticut, so we have increasing our presence here. So I'd say a lot going on, a lot of changes. I think the only thing is constant is fraud. That's the one thing that's
you can always count
all
on
the time. And you see people using the same old tricks, but just kind of repurposing them, changing them a little bit. But yeah, it's out there all the time. Every day we see it.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of fraud, we have Nicole on, who is VP of Fraud and Risk Management for NBT Bank. So what are the new things you're seeing? What are the new twists and turns?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. So fraud is ever changing, but there's a lot of things that kind of stay consistent. So when I'm thinking about educating people about fraud and what to be on the lookout for, I really like to start with the basics of social engineering. Bob and Tom, are you familiar with social engineering? You know that terminology?
I wish I did. So tell us.
Okay. So social engineering is really based on the human tendency to trust somebody. So when we're talking about fraud, we're talking about you get a phone call and it's somebody saying that they're calling with, National Grid, NYSEG, your electric bill, your utilities, you missed a payment. And you're believing that that's who's calling you, right? It's somebody who's sending you a text message with a link in there, maybe claiming to be your bank and saying, hey, something's going on. Why don't you click here, go right to your online banking and put in your credentials? But it turns out to be credential stuffing. And now they have gotten your real credentials and can get in and pretend to be you. So this has always been such an intriguing part of fraud because you don't have to be tech savvy to commit fraud. Okay. You just have to trick somebody into giving you their information. So that's always been kind of an interest of mine. And I like to see what's new out there. So when a call comes in for you, Tom or Bob, Andreas, if you get a phone call, you don't recognize the number. Do you answer it or do you just ignore it? What do you do
Goes
with some random?
goes
I
to
never
goes to
answer it.
voicemail. I
Never
never
answer it.
answer. Never answer.
Good,
Right.
good. Okay. So that's awesome. So I'm the opposite. Now, I'm not advising you guys to do this, but I love to answer them, okay? Because I love to see what's happening. What are the new things? I was on my way somewhere the other day. I get a call, and the person says to me, they're calling from Verizon, right? It's a random number, doesn't come up as Verizon. They said, "Hey, I want to let you know there 2 phones were ordered on your account." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "So you got to tell us what your information is so that we can cancel the phones." I said, "Where did the phones go?" So they rattle off some highway address in like Vermont, right? And I said, "That's my address." And he goes, "Oh, okay."
What?
And I go, "Wait, what phones were they?" So he rattles off some names of some models. And I go, "Yeah, I ordered those." I go, "Can you confirm that they got sent to my house for me?" He goes, "We'll send you an email for confirmation," right? And I said, "What email address do you have for me?" He rattled off something, Kelly something at gmail.com. I said, "That's my email." So he hung up on me, right? And my husband looks at me and he said, "Why do you answer the phone for these people? Why do you do this?" Like he gets annoyed. We're like on our way somewhere.
Oh.
I said, "I want to see what they're telling people. I want to see what our customers are experiencing, right? I want to see it firsthand. What is it that makes people give their information away when they get on the phone with somebody?" And, Bob, I think we talked about this just before we kind of got on here about that sense of urgency. So there's something bad, some sort of impending doom that's going to happen if you don't act quickly. What greater way to feel that you have impending doom to come to you than getting a call from, say, the Department of Homeland Security, right? The FBI, the police, somebody's out there with a warrant for your arrest. I just had a call. Ironically, not probably weird for me to get a call from the Homeland Security, but maybe for other people, right? Scary or, not often. And he said to me, "Hey, can you call this customer? Because if I call them and say I'm the Department of Homeland Security and they're getting calls from somebody that thinks they're the Department of Homeland Security, they're not going to believe me." So it's very interesting to see those impersonations for both government officials, right? Law enforcement agencies, and also bank fraud departments. We get a really, really, bad reputation for calling people when we're not actually calling them and getting people to give out information and send funds. So that was a long answer, but there was
No,
kind
That's
of a
great.
lot
I
going
mean,
on there.
no, that's great. I mean, the fact that you listen in on, not that you listen when you answer the phone to find out what people are
Yeah.
saying to your customers. That
Yeah.
is just a great way to figure out what the new next fraud is.
Mhm.
Maybe I do know somebody who works in internet security, and he'll oftentimes respond to emails that he knows are
Sure.
fraudulent.
Play along and see what they're trying to get
Yeah,
at.
for
Yeah.
the same reason. It's a very, very, very good idea.
Education.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely. Um,
Or
the
you
sa-
can be like me and just ignore all of it. It's
right.
like,
Hey, that is the best approach. That is what I'm telling everyone to do who's listening, right? Don't answer the phone if you don't know the number. Don't give any information away, but they may keep calling. They're going to keep trying, and it's going to be worse if you start giving out information because now they have one piece, they're going to keep trying.
So one of
That's
the
what I
things
do.
that
I
yeah,
avoid picking up because actually
Yeah.
the other reason I avoid picking up because I get worried that they're just going to record my voice and then
Yeah.
use it to recreate it through AI and then
Deep fakes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
scary.
That is going to be definitely a scary, scary vector for fraud when we really start seeing that hit the masses. Now that I'm glad you brought this up, Andreas, because it is a question I get asked a lot about AI, right? And what is that going to look like for fraud and for schemes in the future? And it is going to create a challenge. We are going to start having that social engineering to an even higher level because how much easier to trick somebody if you actually have that voice that sounds like the person you know them to be, could even spoof the number to make it look like they're calling from their phone number. And now your sense of, security is all off and you may start giving out that information. So I'm glad you brought that up. That is going to be something that's going to change fraud for sure.
Absolutely.
So would you suggest so I've had my number spoofed before. Interestingly,
Mhm.
I've had my own number call me, which I always thought that
Oh
was really
yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun and odd.
Oh.
Yeah.
But are there ways to do you see ways to protect yourself against that
Mhm.
sort of deep fake?
So I think there's a couple things, right? So I've talked to some people. It depends kind of if it's just voice or if it's video. And in video, there's some different ways that you can tell if it's really that person or if it's deep fake. So probably that's great for people to go out and kind of Google and look for some of those flags. There's different components with the way, the face is moving or shifting or different movements, right? But then also, I have some people who I was in one training. It was for elder financial exploitation. And this woman was talking about grandparent scams. And she goes, we've got a code at my house, right? So if somebody calls me to say they're my grandson and, I ask them back a question, right? Because this AI is probably not going to know it. And she says, I say, who's my favorite grandson?
Wow.
So she goes, and I say Mickey. And so she goes, and Mickey's the dog. So it was funny, right? So they had already built in this great code to make sure that you have this secret, message system so that you don't give out that information. You know who you're talking to, kind of like, I know it was big when I was a kid, right? It was like, what's the family password? If somebody comes to pick you up at school and says they're your mom's friend, what's the family password? Which brings you back to the idea of stranger danger. I did a campaign a couple years back in Cybersecurity Awareness Month when we're talking about, fraud in October. And every day we put up a new stranger danger like little blurb on our intranet page, so our internal internet, and talked about stranger danger tips. And I had so much fun with it. But Tom, you and I were talking a little bit about robots,
Yeah.
right? And getting those chat bots and kind of not sure. So I had one that was something about if you get a call from, and it's like a voiceover automatic recording, ask myself, do I know this robot? And if not, it's a stranger, hang up on them. Don't give them the information.
Wow.
But it's like as adults, we still need stranger danger reminders.
Hmm.
Like that person calling you is a stranger. Don't give them your information. If they came to your door physically and asked you the same things they were asking you on the phone, would you give them that information? Like I wouldn't. That would be weird, right? Like
Yep.
you show me where you're coming from. Where's your badge? Where's your where's your company car?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, then.
I mean, it's all really interesting. I mean, the idea of family passwords is a really good idea. I mean, that's just an
Mhm.
awesome way to protect yourself because no one is going to know that. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Ask them a question they wouldn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Uh,
always confirm with the real source, right? The other thing is hang up and call your grandchild. Hang up
right.
and call your child and check if your grandchild's in jail, right? See if that's something that's real. We always want to check with the source no matter what type of fraud situation you encounter. If you have someone calling to say there's bank transactions that, you don't maybe recognize and they want you to confirm so they can cancel them, no, hang up and call your bank.
So,
Don't do that right on the phone.
Where will you find West Hartford's best and most comprehensive business news? At weha.com. Subscribe to the weha.com newsletter Business Buzz for free every Monday at weha.com. Log on to we-ha.com. We have it all in West Hartford.
Nicole, what do you suggest people do other than me because I don't answer the phone? But what do on a good day I don't answer the phone. What do people do when they realize that they're in the middle of something fraudulent? Do they call the police? Do they? I mean, I don't know. What do they do?
So it's a great idea. So I think it's a couple different things, right? So if you just get a call, like I get the calls and answer, and I know that they didn't get my information, it's fine to just hang up. You don't have to report that to anyone, unless you're getting text messages. You can report as spam, right, to your carrier. You can kind of report those back. If you provided information, if you say your social security number, you're probably going to want to call all your financial institutions. You're going to want to call the credit bureaus. You're going to want to let them know that your information was compromised. And if you call one credit bureau, they can call the other two so that can be set up there. You want to make sure you don't have any transactions or any new lines of credit that have hit your account. So you want to check your credit report. Now, it used to be that you could check it once a year for free at annualcreditreport.com. You can actually check it every week now. So that's really, really great
Wow.
too. So for consumers, that's very beneficial, very helpful. But if you do believe you had any sort of concern for identity theft where transactions happen, you probably want to wait probably about a month before it's going to, be alerted on your credit report. If you gave out, if any transactions did happen, you want to call your financial institution. If you met somebody in person to go give them money, I know this sounds crazy, but it does happen more than I would like to admit that it happens. Call the police. Definitely.
Gotcha.
I mean, do people actually? Andrea, do people actually go to the bank and take out money and bring it to somebody? I mean, it gets that
Yeah.
bad, huh?
And
Well,
it's bizarre because again, it's that social engineering, but that psychology behind it. There was one a few years ago that I remember this vividly because you just want to scream when you hear it, like, no, why did you do that? They took money out, right? They're entitled to take their funds out. It's really them in front of the bank staff. They leave. Later, they let us know that somebody had told them their money wasn't safe. They were going to take care of it for them and put it in a new account for them. All you need to do is go to the mall, leave the money in the car, leave your car unlocked, go into the mall, and we'll text you when it's all set. Can you? I
mm,
mean, and they
Holy
and they do
smokes.
that. And they
they
did
did it. Oh,
that. So you want to scream, like, are you kidding? What? Like, don't do that. But they're so convinced that something is going on, that sense of urgency and that impeding doom,
right.
that all my money's going to be gone if I don't do this, even though it's quite the
Mm.
opposite, right? Your money's going to be gone if you do this.
Andreas, we've had this conversation earlier, a previous fraud uh, podcast. You at the bank, the tellers and folks inside the bank are trained to see these things, but they obviously, what Nicole just said, you can't stop someone who's going to
Yeah.
insist on it. But what
They
are
I
some of the
mean, they
things?
do a fantastic job at the branches, and if somebody comes in and we'll have conversations with the customers, and they can sometimes we'll figure it out, and sometimes we can talk the customers out of making that wire or moving the funds, taking it out and sending, and then we'll also alert other branches and let them know that this person came in trying to do that, and we know it's a fraudulent transaction, but you can't stop it all.
Right.
Unfortunately, you can't prevent people from taking their money. But like we said, we try to as much as we can. We've got kind of the hints or the characteristics that are kind of common to these transactions that everybody's out on the look for.
You,
How has crypto worked into this? And in cryptocurrency, so I always have a story
yeah.
for you guys when we're on these things, like things that happened to me or people I know. So a friend of mine's neighbor sold his house and walked away about $600,000 in cash, and immediately invested $50,000 in
Mhm.
crypto, which then went away,
Mhm.
like gone, totally gone, like basically just like poof, it doesn't exist anymore. Where does that fall into fraud schemes these
So I guess
days?
I would ask the question, the individual you're talking about, do you know if they themselves invested in it and they had set up their own wallets?
No,
They had gotten information
they
from
handed
somebody
it.
else
Yeah,
or did the
they
ATM?
handed it to somebody else who basically
Yeah.
said, they're invested for them. So
Yeah. Crypto is tough. I mean, once it enters, it's pretty much gone, right? If you're not actually attached to that wallet, there's like no way to trace it back. It's incredibly difficult because it moves around so quickly into so many different places. And I mean, the biggest thing, and we have been seeing investment scams just in general too, not just crypto, but the biggest thing is just paying attention to where did you get that information from? Who is asking you to do it? What information do they need? Where are you able to go in and see that account? Did you open the account yourself? Like those are important components because to Andreas' point, our branches, know the different things that we want to be looking out for. But these fraudsters are good. And so they're coaching, people what to say. Oh, tell them it's home repairs. Tell them it's this. Something we see now too is for investments, they will say to put your own name on where it's going to. Right. So the beneficiary on the wire is myself. I'm just doing investment. I'm just sending it from myself to myself. So it doesn't look suspicious, but really in reality, those accounts are not controlled by that individual who is trying to do the wire. So the funds are gone.
Mm.
wow.
I know.
For people who are listening now and have questions
Yeah.
about fraud, what's the best thing for them to do? Do they just call the local branch? Do they contact you, Nicole? I mean, I don't want to make a lot of people have phone calls, but it just seems like you know, people need to have trust and faith in
Yeah.
someone. And certainly as the local neighborhood bank, you
Yeah.
guys,
Oh, yeah.
provide that
Wonderful,
service.
wonderful
So
question. So we definitely encourage, people to come into the branches. Whether you bank with NBT or if you bank somewhere else, go into your bank where they know you, where you feel comfortable, and don't be embarrassed, right? You've got to get over that piece of it. People don't sometimes want to say what's happening because they can't believe it happened to them. Now, We're also very proud of NBT of our website, so nbtbank.com. We have a lot of information. We have a fraud information center with updated information about scams and what to do if you fall victim. We're really happy about it because you don't have to be a customer to go there. So it's available for anybody to use. So it's great for anyone listening in today. Go out, check it out, Fraud Information Center. See what's out there. Get yourself educated on some of the different scams that are out there and what to do.
So that
Could you
Foreign
repeat
Information
that
Center.
website address one more
Yeah,
Yeah,
time?
exactly.
nbtbank.com. And then it should be right under personal, and it will say NBT Fraud Information Center. Yeah.
Great. All right,
Perfect.
believe it or not, we are almost done with the time talking about fraud. So what do you want to leave us with? To me, the takeaway is don't answer the phone.
Don't do that.
Unless you know who that person is. And then the second thing would be, to, as you said, Nicole, don't be embarrassed. Feel free to, share with someone what's happening so they can help you
Yeah.
get through
So
it.
I would say the other thing that I want to leave with everybody, because it's so important, and I just want to drill it into everybody, is don't share one-time pins with anyone just calling you. Okay. You get those one-time pins or the 6-digit, right, that you have to go and, put into a website to verify that it's you. If you give that to somebody else, you are literally giving them that verification that when they log in, that they're you. And then things can start happening, right? If it's an online banking, you can start making changes. They can start, updating usernames, passwords, because they've been verified that the number on file received a one-time pin and you've given it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of think before you click, and whether it's through email, online, on the phone, take a step back, think about it, and then, you said, come into the branch, talk it through, and then sometimes people will just by having that conversation, they'll realize that. So there'll be self-realization that this is fraud. This isn't. I shouldn't be taking this money out, wiring it, or bringing it to somebody else.
Yes.
All right. So the message to everybody is they can go to nbt.org, nbtbank.org.
.com.
Oh, .com. Sorry. I'm wrong. And I'm going to say it one more time, nbtbank.com. And read more about fraud. But in the meantime, I think, like you said, just be very careful what you're doing and have some trust and faith in people, unlike what you get online. But, go into a local branch or call Nicole or Andreas or someone that at the local NBT Bank, and they'll help you out. In the meantime, we will all stay healthy and wise when it comes to fraud, and we will see you on the scene next time. Special thanks to our guests from NBT Bank, and of course, who is also our sponsor of On the Scene every single 24. What is it? Not every single day, live 24/7, 360. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a great day.
What I'm looking for in a bank is one that's looking out for me, like NBT. I want a relationship and a team that supports me in my dreams. And when life gets challenging, I need a bank that's focused on what matters. Not to mention one that's been top rated by Forbes in trust, customer service, financial advice, and more. That's why when it comes to meeting my banking needs, it's always NBT. Learn more at nbtbank.com. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.